Imagine earning more money than you ever thought you would, yet somehow, at the end of every month, your bank account still feels empty. You look at your paycheck and think, I should be doing fine. After all, you have a stable job, your salary has increased over the years, and from the outside, your life probably looks comfortable. But privately, something feels off. The numbers don't seem to add up, and that quiet thought keeps appearing in your mind. Why does it still feel like I'm behind? This feeling is surprisingly common among high earners. In fact, many people making well above the average salary still feel financially stressed. They are not living paycheck to paycheck in the traditional sense, but emotionally and mentally it feels very similar. The money comes in and somehow disappears just as quickly. To understand why this happens, we need to look at something that almost no one talks about when discussing income: the psychological relationship between earnings and lifestyle. When most people start their careers, their lifestyle is simple. Maybe they share an apartment, drive an older car, cook most meals at home, and think carefully before making large purchases. Their expenses stay relatively low because their income forces them to be cautious. But something subtle begins to happen as income grows. A promotion arrives. The salary increases. The bank account finally feels a little less tight. And slowly, almost invisibly, life begins to upgrade. Not in dramatic ways at first, just small changes that feel reasonable in the moment. Instead of the small apartment, maybe it's time for a nicer one. After all, you work hard. Instead of the used car, maybe a newer one would make the commute more comfortable. Dining out becomes more frequent. Subscriptions accumulate quietly in the background. Vacations become a little more expensive each year. None of these decisions feel irresponsible. In fact, each one can be justified. You're simply enjoying the rewards of your hard work. But the problem is that lifestyle rarely grows in isolation. It tends to grow exactly alongside income. Economists often refer to this as lifestyle inflation, but the experience feels less like inflation and more like adaptation. Humans are incredibly good at adapting to improvements in comfort. What once felt luxurious quickly becomes normal. The apartment that once felt like a huge upgrade eventually just feels like home. The car that once felt exciting becomes the car you simply drive to work every day. The restaurant dinners that once felt like special occasions become part of a weekly routine. And because this adaptation happens gradually, most people never notice the shift. Now, imagine someone earning $60,000 a year who spends $55,000. They save $5,000. Their financial margin is small, but it exists. Fast forward several years, that same person now earns $120,000 a year. On paper, their financial life should feel dramatically better, but their expenses have quietly grown to $115,000. Technically, they are still saving the same $5,000, but psychologically, everything feels different. Their rent or mortgage is larger. Their car payments are larger. Their expectations for travel, food, and entertainment are larger. Their financial commitments have expanded to match their income almost perfectly. And that creates a dangerous illusion. Because when your fixed lifestyle costs rise to meet your salary, your income no longer feels like freedom. It feels like responsibility. Instead of thinking, I earn a lot, the mind starts thinking, I need to earn this much just to maintain everything. This is where the emotional pressure begins. A high earner with a fully expanded lifestyle often feels more financially fragile than someone with a modest lifestyle and a smaller salary. If their income stops, even temporarily, the entire system begins to feel unstable. The expensive apartment still needs to be paid. The car payment still arrives every month. The credit cards still expect their minimum payments. The vacations that were booked months ago are already part of the plan. And suddenly, the salary that once felt impressive starts to feel like a treadmill. You run every month just to stay in the same place. But lifestyle inflation is only one piece of the puzzle, because even people who control their spending well can still feel financially stuck, And the reason has less to do with spending and more to do with how modern financial systems quietly shape our expectations about what normal life should look like. And once those expectations settle in, they begin to influence decisions in ways that are almost invisible. Think about the environment most high earners live in. If you're a young professional working in a large city, your coworkers likely have similar incomes. Your friends live in certain neighborhoods. The conversations at dinner often revolve around new gadgets, weekend trips, restaurants, or the next big purchase someone is planning. None of this is necessarily excessive. In fact, within that social circle, it all feels perfectly normal. But this creates something psychologists call the reference group effect. People rarely measure their financial success against the entire population. Instead, they compare themselves to the people they see most often. A person earning $90,000 might feel wealthy in one environment and financially behind in another. Put that same person in a group where everyone earns $40,000, and suddenly their lifestyle starts to feel comfortable. Put them in a group where everyone earns $200,000, and now their lifestyle starts to feel inadequate. The comparison is rarely intentional. It happens quietly in the background. You notice a colleague who recently upgraded to a luxury car. Another friend buys a home in a more desirable neighborhood. Someone posts photos from a trip to Italy or Greece. Over time, these moments subtly redefine what feels standard. And because humans are social creatures, our spending habits slowly shift to stay aligned with the environment around us. But the real pressure often comes from something even more powerful than social comparison: delayed financial progress. Many high earners assume that earning more money should quickly translate into feeling financially secure. The expectation is simple. If income increases enough, eventually there will be a moment where things finally feel stable. But that moment rarely arrives as quickly as people imagine. Student loans can take years, sometimes decades, to disappear. Housing costs in major cities consume a huge portion of income. Healthcare, insurance, and taxes quietly absorb large chunks of every paycheck. And retirement savings, which should ideally start early, require setting aside money that cannot be touched for decades. From the outside, someone might appear financially successful. They have a good job, a comfortable apartment, maybe a nice car, but internally, their financial progress feels slow. The savings account grows, but not dramatically. Investment balances increase, but markets fluctuate. Debt decreases, but often more slowly than expected. So the mind begins to interpret the situation incorrectly. Instead of recognizing that wealth building is naturally slow in the early years, people assume they must be doing something wrong. They look at their income and think, if I earn this much, why don't I feel richer? But wealth rarely appears through income alone. Income is simply the engine. The real shift happens through time, consistency, and the gap between what you earn and what you spend. And that gap is often much smaller than people expect. This is why some individuals earning modest salaries quietly build strong financial foundations, while others earning twice as much still feel financially strained. The difference is not always intelligence or discipline. Often it comes down to one simple factor: whether income increases faster than lifestyle. People who maintain even a small gap between those two forces eventually experience something powerful. Over time, their savings begin to grow faster than their expenses. Investments start generating returns. Financial stress slowly fades. But people whose lifestyle expands as fast as their income remain stuck in the same emotional cycle. The numbers might be bigger, but the feeling never changes. Every new raise simply upgrades the treadmill. And perhaps the most surprising part of all is that many high earners don't actually want dramatically larger lifestyles. What they truly want is the feeling of breathing room, the ability to say no to overtime without anxiety, the confidence that an unexpected expense won't cause stress.
the quiet comfort of knowing that money is slowly working in the background. Because once that space exists, something subtle changes in the way money feels. Money stops feeling like something that must constantly be protected and starts feeling like something that can quietly build freedom over time.